Hi, it's Louisa Dahl. And welcome to the Interactive Minds podcast, where I talk with passionate marketers, innovators, and digital leaders about their specific recipes for success. In today's show, I interview Luke Wheatley, and we had a fascinating discussion about the content he and the team create at Flight Centre. Here's 3 things you're going to learn. 1, how they brainstorm to respond to content briefs. 2, why Flight Centre hero their retail consultants in their content. And 3, the do-it-yourself content approach that they use. Let's get into it. Today I'm excited to have on the show with me Luke Wheatley, who is the Manager of Creative and Content at Flight Centre Travel Group. Luke and I met a few months ago when we were both speaking at an event, and I'm really looking forward to hearing more about what he does. Welcome to the show, Luke.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. So you've had a really interesting career in the marketing industry. Can you give us a quick rundown of your background?
Yeah, sure. As a summary, I've been lucky enough to work across multiple industries. I started off in the natural health industry, and that's where I really learnt my marketing skills, where my last year of uni, I decided to get a job, work full-time and do uni full-time as well.
Nice.
Which was a bit of a challenge. It was a bit of fun. So I learned new product development at a natural health company, which was really fun. After that, though, I was very lucky and got one of my dream jobs, which was doing marketing for feature films, documentaries, and TV shows.
Great.
At an Australian distributor.
Awesome.
And I was there for 6 years, and I worked my way up to being the head of acquisitions and head of marketing for the company. So I was very lucky where I got to fly around the world, go to all the film festivals, read scripts, and purchase the films and then do the marketing for them back in Australia and New Zealand.
Wow.
After 6 years, I decided I want to try something new. So I joined Ripe Solutions, which was a small agency in Brisbane where we had the Subway account. And I was the head of marketing for local stores in Subway. And I, again, worked there for 5 years and got to do all different types of things, from new product development through to doing TV ads, day part analysis at Subway. And we really got to be a strong partner of the Subway brand. Then most recently, I've been at Flight Centre. So I've been at Flight Centre for 5 years, where I started off as the head of creative, and I've worked my way up into being now the head of content and creative, where I'm responsible for the brand direction, the creative direction, and our content direction.
Wow, that's been a really interesting journey, and it sounds like you've had quite a few different kind of elements that you've focused on throughout those different roles. Do you think your love of content came from that experience in the film industry?
Definitely. I think my love of content comes from telling a good story, and I've always been able to tell a good story. So whether it's through written words, on video, or just talking to someone in general, I've always been pretty good at telling a tale. My childhood really helped me do that. I actually grew up on a boat.
Wow.
So from about 7 years old to 14, I lived on a yacht, and we cruised around the world on a yacht. So I learned pretty early on how to tell a story, got lots of good stories. And I think just that love of being able to being creative and being adventurous, I was born into it. And I've just always been able to choose roles that excite me. That's always been something for me that's been my biggest interest. I've never chased the money. I've chased the adventure.
Perfect.
And so, and I think that's kind of worked well for me.
Yeah, what an interesting childhood. And it sounds like you've landed then in the perfect role, when you're dealing with both travel and storytelling. So tell us a bit more about the role that you're in at the moment.
Yeah, so right now I head up the creative and the content strategy, which is part of the brand strategy for Flight Centre. I've got a team of 30 amazing people that I look after, and we're responsible for how do we talk to our customers? How do we tell our customers why they should book with Flight Centre? So whether that's through highlighting our people, and what I mean by our people is our amazing consultants, our people who are on the ground creating amazing travel experiences for our customers. How do we highlight them in our content, in our advertising, in everything we do, and telling people why they should book with Flight Centre? So that's pretty much our remit. Our remit is we need to tell people why they should book with Flight Centre. And if what we do doesn't answer that, we won't do it.
Right, excellent. And how does your team fit within the broader Flight Centre kind of corporate team or corporate
Yeah,
marketing, I
so
should ask?
we're part of what's called marketing and communications. So my team is responsible from the creative direction, content direction, brand direction, all the way through to creating the advertising, creating the content. But also, we've also got a team who manage our one-on-one communication with our customers. So any complaints or feedback on social media, on product review sites, my team will respond to them. And if it's a negative comment, they'll actually address the negative comment and try to find a solution to resolve the issue. So what that means is we are kind of the voice of the customer, working with the other marketing teams. So there's two other teams under marketing communications. One is campaigns. So they're the ones who are coming up with the campaigns. And then there's also DMO, which is digital marketing optimization. So what we do is we work together, and from campaign strategy through to digital strategies through to the creative and content strategy, we work together in bringing and delivering our campaigns.
Fantastic. Sounds like a great role, and that you've got some good creative elements in there as well. So what does a typical day look like for you?
Meetings. No, not really. A typical day for us is usually we're reviewing what we've done, and we're trying to either make it better. So we're always testing and learning. So we're always throwing creative out there into the market and seeing how it's performing, and then we're adjusting how it's going. So if it's performing well, we kind of let it go. But if it's not performing to our expectations, we'll be changing it. We're usually brainstorming ideas. So there's always, at least once a day, there's a brief that has come in from someone in our business who wants something. So we're brainstorming an idea. We're launching a campaign. We're creating a campaign. And we're usually talking within the business about what other directions, what other opportunities are there in the market. So it's pretty dynamic. Certainly never at my desk. And if I am, there's always a line of people wanting to talk to me, which is the way I like it. I love being able to talk to people, and I would say we're really dynamic. But what's, I think, a big part of my leadership is that I'm also a big believer in you do your time, you work your work hours. But when 5 o'clock, 5:30 comes along, what I really appreciate is seeing my team members go home.
Great.
I think that's really great. So whilst we're really dynamic, we're hardworking, we also make time for people to go home, spend time with their families, their friends, go and have a social life, and not just be at your desk the whole time.
Yeah, that's really refreshing. And look, I think there's a really wide range of approaches to how organizations and managers are managing their team. So it's great to hear that, that's something you're passionate about and that you're trying to bring to the culture of your team.
Yeah, and Flight Centre has been really spearheading that, and being at Flight Centre, they have some great leadership training for you, and it's been such a great thing to see a company embrace that. So my thinking of leadership is quite reflected across Flight Centre. There's a lot of things. We have some guiding philosophies, and there's a few that I really cling to. One is egalitarianism, which I love because it means we take what we do seriously, but we don't take ourselves too seriously.
Yep.
I think that's really lovely. And ownership, we own our work, we own our mistakes, we also own our success. And I've never been in a company where it's okay to fail. We call it fail fast, but it's okay to fail. It's okay to make a mistake, and you're not going to be, fired, or you're not going to be demoted. You're not going to be, left out of the business. They kind of encourage you to try things, which I think is just fantastic.
Yeah, that is so important. And especially in this industry, because, there is no right or wrong answer, is there? Everything is trial and error. So we need to have that flexibility and give to be able to try things, and not know what the outcome will be definitively.
Yeah, and you need to be confident that you're supported. And that's something that Flight Centre do really well, is that the leadership, the senior leadership team really support you in making your decisions. And I think it's great.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, you mentioned brainstorming is a big part of your day as well. Can you tell us a little bit about how you approach brainstorming in your role?
Yeah, so usually we'll get a brief, and because we're quite dynamic and quite fast paced, it's usually due quite quickly. So, within a week, we've got to turn around our solution. So normally we look at what the brief is, what's the challenge, and we'll grab 3 to 4, maybe 5 people, but we look for people who have different skill sets. So we'll get someone from content, someone from creative strategy, maybe someone from an animation background if it needs that. But we'll get people from different kind of skill sets, get them in a room, and we always whiteboard it up. So we write up what is the challenge, what are we trying to address, and then we try to find the human insight. What is it that why will our customer care? And from there, we kind of come up with our human insight of why our customer will care. And then we write up all our ideas, and we kind of go through the ideas, and they have to answer the first thing, which is why should you come to Flight Centre? That has to be in there every time.
Great.
And then it's, does it fit the brief? Does this make sense to the customer? And does it fit the brief? And if it does, then we kind of expand on that. So our brainstorming sessions are pretty quick, half an hour to an hour. And we always come out with an action plan, always come out with 2 to 3 ideas, and then we'll assign the idea to someone in the group, and they'll work it up, and then we'll meet back in a day or 2 days' time and see where everyone got to. And we kind of try to break it. We try to break the idea. If it's not a good idea, we'll try to break it as best we can before we even present it back to the person who briefed us.
Yeah, nice.
So it's quick, fun, and I think we get really good results from it.
Excellent. And I love your focus on the customer, and that it's really clear how important the focus is for the business in there, asking the questions about why our customer will care and why Flight Centre for them, and making that kind of central to the solution. That's great.
Well, I think a lot of marketing people do make the mistake, and I'm definitely guilty for this myself, is that we do look inwards sometimes too much.
Yeah.
And in my role is to challenge. So we try our best to look outward. We really try to look at, will this make sense to the customer? Will the customer care? And will this make the customer think, yeah, I should book with Flight Centre?
Yeah. Yeah, great. Definitely needed in this day and age, and to keep our customers on board and central.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Now you're going to tell us a bit about something that you're working on at the moment, a specific project. Give us a bit of a rundown.
Yeah, so right now we have quite a few projects, but the big project we're working on is called the Wow List. So a few years ago, we came up with the idea that Flight Centre as a travel brand in Australia is the number one travel brand in Australia. It's got a high trust rating, and it made sense for us to each year predict what are the top things that our customers should experience next in the following year.
Yep.
So what we do is we use our data. So we get all our booking data from our customers, and we look at sort of emerging destinations or emerging trends. Why are people going to LA? What is it? Well, why are they going to Amsterdam? What are they looking for? And we get that through our consultants. So we ask our people and go, what are people coming in to inquire on? And we use that data and we layer it with our partner data. So we then talk to our different partners, and we come up with a top 50 list each year. These are the top 50 things you should experience for next year. A few years ago, we predicted that South Korea would be a hot ski destination, and it's really starting to emerge through now that it's, as an example,
Excellent.
where Japan was emerging. Now Japan's kind of stable, not emerging. You know, everyone knows about Japan ski.
Yeah.
But what a lot of people don't realise is that South Korea is actually cheaper and it's got better snow.
Wow.
So through our data, we could see that that's what the true skiers were kind of looking for. So for this year, we're actually going above the line with our Wow List. So we do a beautiful 100-page glossy magazine, which has it's all written by our people. So our consultants, our product experts, a lot of my team. So we will experience the experience, and we'll write it up.
Great.
But this year we're going above the line. So it's going to be our big brand push. And we've chosen 4 of the 50 experiences, and we've gone and filmed them with our consultant. So I just got back from Canada, where we experienced the Yukon, which is, if you've never been,
Nice.
I highly recommend. It's definitely in the top 50 experiences you must do for next year.
Wow.
So we went to the Yukon and we filmed with our amazing consultant. And we're in the wilderness. It's snowing. There's wildlife around. It's -10. We saw the northern lights. It was totally amazing. So what we're going to do is we're creating some amazing content. So 3 to 4 minute videos of 4 of the top destinations. So one's the Yukon, the other one's cruising on the rivers in France, diving the Great Barrier Reef at Heron Island, which was amazing. And then the last one that we filmed was traveling through Europe on rail. So we did a lot of Swiss rails.
Cool.
So we try to show different experiences. And this is all going to go above the line in December. And we're doing a massive PR push as well.
Yep.
So we're trying to get earned media as well as paid media, and then also our content. So for us, it's a really big push to try to get our more so our consideration up during a time in December, which is quite busy and quite noisy, as you can imagine. December, Christmas, a lot of their money is going to presents or other things that aren't holidays.
Yep.
But also gears us up for next year for January, which is then people start thinking about what's their New Year's resolution, and we can be there talking about the top 50 experiences, and we're trying to give people the knowledge of this is what maybe you should do some of these experiences for next year.
Yeah, great. So in the past, this campaign has been done before, but only as the glossy book. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so this is a real extension.
For 3 years, so for 3 years we've been doing that, and then this year we're going above the line, awesome. Which is, I think it's great. It's a really great brand push for us. It's again showing our people and our people's knowledge, which is really why you should book with Flight Centre, is that our people not only love traveling, but they've got such passion and knowledge and connections in the travel industry.
Yeah, and I'm going to come back to that, but tell me a little bit more about this campaign. So how long will it be in market for?
So it's going to be in market for the month of December, which and then because we move on to other campaigns. So it's for a month, but we're staggering our content throughout the month of December. It's going to be on TV. We'll probably on outdoor, a lot of digital media, press, in store, and then a lot on social. So it's pretty huge for us.
Yeah. And what are your expectations? How do you think this is going to go in this busy time of year? I mean, this is a bit of a trial and error thing like we were talking about before, right?
Yeah, this is a real trial for us because we're really good at doing 15-second ads on TV throughout the year.
Yep.
But this is 3 to 4 minute content videos that we're putting out onto social and into other channels. And it's a real test for us because we know that there's going to be a lot of sales. Everyone's going to be on sale. JB Hi-Fi, all the people that are trying to get that Christmas money, and we're kind of going the opposite. We're not on sale. We're talking about these experiences. We're talking about these really immersive, inspirational experiences. So for us, our expectation is we really want to see not only our customers, just Australians really resonate. Hopefully, it resonates with Australians. And our expectation is shareability. We want people to be inspired to travel for next year. And so it's actually quite different for us because usually we're quite sales orientated. We must have a clear measure of success. And whilst we do have measures of success, which is all about cost per views, it's such a strong content strategy that we actually don't really know how it's going to go. And that's kind of exciting for us.
Yeah. What does a good outcome look like? Have you defined that as an organisation?
Yeah. A good outcome for us is obviously, whilst I say, everything for us is targeted to sales because marketing should be tied to sales.
Yes.
But what we're looking at for us is more of a brand increase in our brand perceptions. So we've got a really high awareness. We roughly sit around the 87% brand awareness in Australia. But what we want to see increase is our consideration and also our purchase intent, and then also our trust. So they're the things that we're kind of looking at from a consumer point of view. So we'll be in market and we're testing this from those clear attributes.
Yeah.
So
great.
For us, if our consideration increases, also in January and February, because as content, it takes a while for these things to kind of resonate with your customers. We want to see those destinations that we've promoted to increase.
Yeah.
So inquiry increases in those destinations. And we know that in December that may not happen, but in January, February, even March, we may see those destinations that we push or those experiences increase.
Okay, so one of the things you mentioned is that you're hoping the campaign will improve or increase your consideration. That's obviously something that you're measuring and tracking on a regular basis?
Yes, we use we use YouGov, and we are tracking all our attributes every 2 to 3 days. Obviously, every 2 to 3 days, you don't see massive changes, but we then look at it as an average every month and so kind of see how it's all tracking. But what's really interesting about the YouGov is that we can see when we put a campaign into market and was there any kind of movement straight away, or did it take a little while? So for the wow list, I'd expect our attributes not to change immediately because it's such a content led campaign, but I'd like to see it sort of starting to build as people see it and it kind of resonates with our customers. So I'm really excited to sort of see how it tracks. As an example, we put a campaign in market quite a few months ago, which was no online booking fee, 15-second spots, really clear, precise retail message. Book online, no online booking fee. We saw an increase in our value perceptions, our trust perceptions, our consideration almost immediately because it was such a clear communication that people got it, and so we saw that sort of spike up immediately.
Wow.
But I don't expect that for a content-led strategy.
So that's right.
We're kind of like, we know it's going to take probably a few weeks, even to a few months.
Yeah. And is this campaign something that you'll leave online then ongoing, or how will you manage that content and what you're creating after the campaign's over?
Yeah. So the wow list will stay in market for a year until the next wow list. Okay. But that story, so the 2020 wow list as a blog, all the blog's stories will always be on our website, so you can always check it out.
Yep.
The magazine itself has a physical 1 year shelf life. Doesn't mean that if there's a copy around, we destroy it. We certainly use it. We give it away to our experts.
Yep.
But yeah, as a campaign, it stays in market.
Excellent.
What's really great though for us is that if we're ever in market for a product that suits the content that we've produced, we'll always re-amplify that back up.
Great.
So even though it's about the wow list, we might recut it, repurpose it, and then put it back out again into market. So we try to be pretty, I guess, recyclable with our content and repurpose it where possible because whilst I loved being in the Yukon, I know I don't need to go back there to create more content because I know we got enough now that we can just repurpose it. Yeah. So there'll be even content that we put out there that we will still have in our files that we know we can use for later.
Perfect. And tell me about creating this content, because it sounds like you're very hands-on in terms of going to the destinations. And of course, why wouldn't you be? They sound amazing. What's the team like that you are involved with over there doing the actual filming?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in doing things yourself. Do it yourself. And I think even though we're a massive brand, that DIY punk ethos comes through in Flight Centre. And so if I can go back, when I first started Flight Centre, I went to the business and I said, how about you give me $7,000 and let me go buy a camera, a few lenses, and let me go I went to Malaysia with 2 of my team, and how about I go film some content and let's see what happens with it? Because until I started, we were sending influencers and sending professionals all around the world. But we weren't really getting a strong return of investment. We saw no consideration increases. We didn't really even see sales increases because of that activity.
Right.
And that's because an influencer does a great job if you're a fashion brand, but if you're a travel brand, they are promoting the destination, not really what Flight Centre did for them. So for us, there wasn't really a strong return of investment there. So I went to the business and did that. And I went to Malaysia and we produced some content ourselves, and I just taught myself through YouTube and talking to some friends how to film. Wow. And and we came back and we cut the content. And,
like yourselves, or did you get other people?
No, I actually used, so I'm also, I believe you use the right people for the right job. So we actually, the post house called Empire Post for this one. Awesome. And they cut the content together for us, and we got 3.3 million views off our sort of content that we produced ourselves. And that started this snowball effect. And then we started doing more and more. We'd get invited on for meals, and we'd take our camera with us. Yep. 3 years ago, I then went back to the business and said, how about we make our own travel show? And I got told no 3 to 4 times. On the 5th time, I just kept repitching.
Yep.
And my pitch was simple. Who better to do a travel show than the number 1 travel retailer in Australia?
Yep.
And we'll use our people. And long story short, we did it. We did 2 seasons, and then we sold it to Network 10 and National Geographic internationally. It features our own people, but I created it. My creative director, Kristen Bonner, she directed and did a lot of creative for us as well. So she directed many, many episodes. I directed quite a few. We had a lot of our other our designers or creatives would step up and direct. So we had 2 to 3 other designers who would step up and direct an episode.
Great.
All the production was done in-house. So Jess Holmes is our producer here, and she produced everything. And then a lot of our content people would produce. And we're pretty much right now doing 2 to 3 videos almost a week, and it's all done in-house. We may bring in a camera person, which we have some really good contacts with, and we might edit in-house, or we'll go to Empire Post, Cutting Edge, Post Lounge, or even Alt VX, who are a really strong partner of ours.
Yep.
So we kind of use people, but we do it all ourselves from a production point of view. So for the WOW list, for the WOW list, we have 1 person who directs, and that's someone in-house. So it was either me or Kristen Bonner who did it. We have a producer, and that's has been Jess Holmes or Christy Eakins. So far 2 people.
Yes.
We have a sound person who's a freelancer. We have a camera person. So we used a guy called Rich Wang or Simon Christides. Funny enough, we literally came back on Monday morning, and Simon had to get back on a plane 8 hours later to go to Bali. Oh, no, I think he went to Bali or Bangkok to film with Chris Hemsworth. Like, these guys do feature films.
Nice.
And we get them to work with us.
Excellent.
So, and then we have a talent. So 5 people all up in our crew. So 1 person, maybe even 2 people in front of the camera, and that's it. So we fly really quite small. For smaller content though, could just be me, and I'll do camera, direct. We do sound. We'll do everything to get it really depends. But yeah, it's usually 5 people is the maximum that we go with.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I love the background behind that as well. And obviously, what an accomplishment to get it across the line to make your own show. Tell us what that was called.
Oh, it was called the 48-Hour Destination.
Yes.
We're up for a few, best content strategies of the year at the B&T Awards and a few other awards. We didn't win, but we're up for some nominations, which was pretty cool to be, rubbing shoulders with some of the best content producers in Australia.
Yeah.
Our ethos is just, let's get it done. Let's do it ourselves. We know our brand, and let's make it happen. And it's okay to make mistakes. And that's just been a great thing for us. And I think that not every content strategy is going to be perfect, but if we keep trying, we keep putting our effort in and our passion in for travel, then I think we'll do well. And what's really funny is that the less polished content that we do, that actually resonates more with our customers than the really polished stuff.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's because it's more authentic. And I know that's a word that a lot of people don't like, authentic, real, but it actually is. And if I go back to when I went to Malaysia with a camera, and we didn't really know what we were doing, and we were just filming Malaysia as a tourist and cut it beautifully to a great track, people loved it because it felt like a couple of travelers just filming.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like a production company going off and making this amazing content. And I think we still kind of keep that ethos, and that's why we keep a small crew. Because it's just us exploring it ourselves. We're just as wowed by the destination as you should be watching it. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And it's such a good point that you said, because yes, they are hot words right now to be authentic and real. Yeah. But when you think about it, the opposite of those words are fake and staged, and nobody wants that. So, particularly in travel, I think it's super relevant, but I think it's also a good takeaway for anyone out there producing content, that we do need to, that humanize it and make it real, and that's more likely to get buy-in from, the viewers.
I think so. I think the more you plan, the more you try to make it a success, probably the opposite will happen.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay to put things into the world and see if it was going to work. And I think a lot of us, and I'll even say myself included, sometimes we get too caught up. Is it perfect? Will people like it? And you can see your own errors, but the average person, even like, they just don't see it. They just see a great piece of content. And I think content has to be real. It has to be authentic, and you have to find the why you're doing it, and just give it a go. And we've got such technology at our fingertips right now. You know, we film things off our phones sometimes and just put it up.
Yeah.
You don't need the fancy cameras. You don't need all this fancy stuff. We edit as we travel. So after filming all day, we'll go into a hotel room and we'll sit there and we'll use Adobe Rush really quickly just to see if what we filmed is working. And 9 times out of 10, what we edit that night usually ends up pretty close to what we actually end up doing anyway.
Really?
Which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the fly.
Yeah. And I think that's where content should just be real quick, put it out there, see if it resonates, and if people like it, keep doing that. But we're always challenging ourselves. We're always looking at ways, what can we do different? I remember the trend was having content really short, sharp, because people aren't going to watch a long piece of content. We're actually going against that grain by producing 3 to 4, 5-minute content pieces. But what we're seeing is, if it's good content, people will watch it. If it's bad content, it doesn't matter if it goes for 30 seconds or 4 minutes. People aren't going to watch it because they're not interested. So I think sometimes you can't look at how long should it be, what should I be doing. It just should just be really entertaining content.
And are you having to put different length content on different channels then, or how do you manage that approach?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's being mindful of your channels.
Yeah.
You know, if I use TV, for example, we did 30 minutes of the 48-hour destination, but we would also make sure we had scenes that would work on Instagram stories. So 3 seconds, 5 seconds, all the way through to Facebook, where we would cut a 1-minute trailer to get people interested to watch the whole episode. For the wow list, we're producing 3 to 4 minute pieces of content, but we were really aware of the different channels. So we've also, as we were filming, we would go, okay, this bit would be really good for social. So we'll film a certain scene and it might go for 15 seconds, but that would just be for Instagram as an example. So,
great.
You know, and we're taking high-res images as well. So we would stop filming. I'd take a photo we've got a Sony A9. So I take a shot with that. So we have really high quality imagery as well. And as we're doing that, our consultant was writing, because we use consultants. We want them to write. And so every day, our consultant would write in their diary, which we would then use for our blogs. We'll use in our Travel Ideas magazine. So it all kind of links back together.
Yeah, great. Let's talk a little bit more about the consultant being involved, because when you use this term, you're talking about someone that works at Flight Centre, typically in your retail store, who's involved in the content generation. Is that right?
Absolutely. And so what we do is we go, oh, okay, we're going to go to Vanuatu and film some content. So what we do is we have an intranet called Workplace, and we put a shout out on Workplace, and we look for a consultant who is passionate and knowledgeable about the destination. So Vanuatu, for an example.
Yep.
And we probably get, it depends. Sometimes we get 20, sometimes we get 100 applicants, and we ask them to do a simple thing. They need to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about themselves and why they love Vanuatu. On video. We just say, just film it on your phone. And they do that, and we go through, like any ad or anything else, we go through a casting process. And so we try to find someone who's going to fit what we need to do. And so, and they then come with us on the shoot. They're a real consultant. Then they go back to their store after we've done the filming. And and sometimes we use the same consultant a few times because it might work. Other times we might use them for one thing. So every consultant you see in our TV ads, in our outdoor, in our content, they're real consultants. And I think that's really great.
That is great. And what a great perk as well for the consultants to be able to have that opportunity to be involved.
Well, I think it's really great. And it's also, selfishly for us, it's a really good internal message, because a lot of people think content, you just go on a holiday, have a great time in Canada. Must be in a great time. But we're actually doing a really good internal job of showing people how hard it is. And don't get me wrong, it's an amazing opportunity, but it's a lot of hard work. And so they go back to the store And not only are they an advocate of what we do because they've had an amazing experience, they actually talk about how much work goes into it, what are marketing doing. And so then you have a whole store who are kind of bought into what we're doing. So there's a little bit of that as well. So I think it's for us as a strategy, it's an internal strategy to make people really proud to work at Flight Centre and just show that there's opportunities, but then also externally showing how amazing our consultants are. The consultant we just used in Canada, she's written 3 books, 3 novels that she's self-published, and she's writing more novels.
Great.
So she's selling travel, she's writing, and here we are in Canada with her, and she was just amazing. And all these consultants have such incredible stories. They're always doing something, and some of them speak 3 or 4 languages. They're really, really interesting.
Yeah, and perfect for the job by the sounds of it.
Yeah, like some of these people, and it's quite funny because we'll be filming and we have to stop because one of their customers needs something, and that's a priority to us.
Yep.
So we'll have to stop and let them make sure that their customer's okay. Maybe they're going to book something for them, fix something, and that for us is priority for us to making sure that our customers are happy. So yeah, like it's a really interesting way for us doing it, and I think it's the best thing that we've done is showing our people.
I think, you've obviously hit the nail on the head in terms of what works for you and your audience and the industry. This move away from kind of paid influencers to using your own team and heroing them, is that something that you feel would apply to other businesses and other industries as well?
Yes, I do. If you're a service, service business. So I think if you used someone, say, for us, because it's about coming in and getting a really good service from Flight Centre, so it makes sense for us to highlight our people and to highlight their passion and their knowledge. But if you're a fashion brand, and it may not make sense to highlight your people in a store, because why would you want to hear from them? So if I was a fashion brand, I'd probably use a paid influencer because they're going to get you the awareness, the consideration, and show a pretty, a nice lipstick or shoes or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense because wow, that looks great. I want to buy that.
That's
but for
right.
us in the service industry and what we sell, it makes more sense for us to highlight our people. If I look back at Subway, another business that I worked in, I would absolutely be using the sandwich artists as my influencers. It makes sense. They make sandwiches all day. They're called a sandwich artist.
Yeah.
I would be absolutely highlighting them because as a customer, I want to hear from them. What's their favorite sandwich? How do they make the sandwich? What are some of the tips? That's the kind of thing that I think strong content can do.
Yeah, great. But I haven't seen them doing that yet.
No. So there's a tip, Subway.
Maybe after this episode, hey, we'll keep an eye out.
Yeah, maybe.
So, Luke, you've told us about some of the awesome stuff that you're doing and some of the stuff coming up for you. Can you also share an example of maybe something that hasn't worked? We've talked about failing fast and how that's an important part of the process. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I would say we fail all the time. I'd say daily we're failing in some way. I'm trying to think of something right now that was a big fail. I think it depends on what you categorize as a fail.
Sure.
So was it a fail because it was you thought it was a good creative idea and it went out and didn't resonate with the customer, or was it a fail because sales didn't increase? So, I think, I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of something that we failed at that makes sense.
No, well, actually, as you're saying this, it's occurring to me that perhaps, you said you fail fast, and that does mean failing early as well. And perhaps you haven't had that big failure because you pick it up along the way and you iterate and,
That's right.
and change it as you go.
Yeah, we do. Like when we fail, like you say, we identify that it's not working or it's not resonating. It's whatever reason it's failing, we stop doing it and we move on. And I think that, again, like I said before, is that having the confidence from the business and from our senior leaders to be okay and to call, because it's a pretty hard thing to say, I had an idea, I put it into market, and now it's failing, and now I want to stop it.
Yeah.
As an ego thing, it's a really hard. That's a hard thing to raise and to say. But
Definitely.
within Flight Centre, it doesn't feel like that. It just feels like part of your average day.
Great.
That you go, yeah, it didn't work. I'm moving on, and this is what we're going to do now.
Yeah.
And so Where I've worked in other places where if you fail, you don't even want to talk about it. No one talks about the failures, but we talk about the failures as much as we do the success.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that's so important. As we said earlier,
Yeah.
super good approach to be part of.
Yeah, I think it's been open, and we have a really good policy in our team, which is I always say this, and we celebrate our success publicly, but we also address our failures privately.
Mm.
So, I read a great book a little while ago, and it really stayed with me, and it was the fact that if a team member's made a mistake, you need to go and talk to them about it. So it's done. It's put to bed. They're not thinking for the next 2 to 3 months every time you say, "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?"
Yeah.
And they're thinking, "Oh, this is the conversation."
Yeah.
You don't have that problem because you just address it and it's done. And we really make sure we do that. And I think that, we have a really high retention rate in our team because of that.
Yep.
Because people know that they can come to me or they can come to another leader and say, "I've made a mistake," or "It's failed. This is what we're going to do." And they also know that if they've done something good, then we celebrate it publicly.
Yeah.
And it's quite nice. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, another question, just going back to the content side of things. It sounds like you're creating heaps of content all the time by the sounds of it, in terms of how many videos and other elements that you're creating. How much content is too much content?
Good question. I think it comes down to what's happening with the content. What is it working to your customers? What I mean by that is, are people liking it? Are they interacting with it? Because the moment that there is no interaction, there is no, and I'm not talking about a simple like, I'm talking about, people are actually interacting with the content. The moment that starts dropping off is when you've made too much. For us, we're really quite picky with when we launch our content, what we're going to say, and making sure that it aligns with our the rest of our campaign activity.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good question, but I think it comes down to, is it working to your customers? Are your customers still collaborating with it? Are they still watching it? Is it working? And I think that's probably more the thing. When I first started in the content space, they were doing 3 blogs a day, every day.
Wow.
That's too much.
Yeah.
Because no one reads 3 blogs a day, let alone every day, and it just wasn't getting the kind of the viewership.
Yeah.
So we really stripped it back, and our policy is quality over quantity.
Yes.
So we probably do 3 blogs a week now, and we have an excellent stats. So we have about 6 minutes time on page.
Excellent.
We get about 185 to 200,000 unique views per month to our blog. So we know people are coming to our blog, and we actually know they're staying and they're reading the content because the content's well produced, and we're not just constantly hitting people with this content.
Yeah. And that's the key, isn't it? As you say, it's all about what you do with it and what your customers are doing with it, as to whether that's a benchmark or thing that you need to review.
And sometimes our content, like our video content, it might only be 15 seconds.
Yeah.
It could just be a consultant talking to camera about something that's happening, a new deal, and then other content could be 3 minutes. So if we were doing 3-minute pieces of content video every day, I would agree. I'm like, okay, that's just too much. But we do change our content quite a lot, in different styles, so to make it a bit more relevant.
Awesome. If there's someone out there listening who wants to up the ante with their content and follow in the footsteps that you have shown us today, what do you suggest to them? Where should they start?
They should start today, and they should give it a go, because they have every tool in their possession, probably in their hand, which is their phone. But they should collaborate. They should talk to people. My LinkedIn's always open, and I always say happy for a coffee. And that's a legit thing. I've worked with lots of different people. I'm always good at challenging people, and I think that's what you got to do. If you want to up the ante, you've got to challenge. It doesn't mean you need more money. It doesn't mean you need a better product. It just means you need to think about it differently.
Yeah.
And challenge yourself and find the why. And don't look at the barriers, look at the opportunities. And because if I did that, I wouldn't have made a TV show. If I did that, I wouldn't have gone to Canada last week. I look at the opportunities and have the belief that you can do it, because you can do it. It's not that difficult to make good content. It's really easy, though, to say it's too hard, it's too difficult, or I don't know how to do it. You do know how to do it. You just got to go, just practice. Practice. That's my biggest advice. Practice and give it a go.
Great advice. Great advice for those people starting out. There's no excuse. Let's get started today. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the show, Luke.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you liked this episode, I'd love you to leave us a review. I read every second one. My recommended action item from today's show is to look at your content plan and up the ante using some of Luke's ideas. You can access today's show notes at interactiveminds.com/podcast. We hope you like our new website, and we'll see you next week.